answering your tough financial questions for the past 26 years. It's Allworth's Money Matters with co-hosts Scott Hanson and Pat McClain. Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hanson and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hanson.
I'm Pat McClain.
Thanks for being part of our program. This is the first week of May, and both myself and my co-host here, both financial advisors, spend our weekdays helping people like, I was going to say meeting with, I guess virtually meeting with people like yourself.
Yes.
And come on the weekends to be your financial advisors on the air.
And the Zoom phone appointments, working, self-isolating in my office at home. How's it going for you, Scott? This is a strange world, isn't it?
Yes, it's not. It's funny because you see times like this. Sometimes you get a little kind of a mirror into your own yourself. There's parts of me I don't really like, right?
Yes.
And it's funny. I'm 53 years old, and I've learned, and we will talk about financial matters. I've learned that I just do better around other people. I've learned that if I'm by myself too much, I'm isolated, I tend to get depressed. My mind does weird things. And so when I was a younger person, I tried to change that about myself. And I think the older you get, the more you realize you're probably not going to change a whole lot, right? So, yeah. And then I'm like, I remember maybe it was about 10 years ago. I'm like, this is how I am wired. So I'm just going to make sure that I've got people in my life all the time. And that's what's so hard about this season.
It's really, but I got to tell you, my house looks great. I've touched up paint. I've fixed everything. The yard looks great.
Mine looks...
Really?
The yard looks great because the gardener keeps coming.
Well, I did. Anyway.
And the house cleaner has not been there in 7 weeks. And I hadn't cleaned a toilet in years, and I'm cleaning toilets every week.
There you go. Well, you used to when you were younger.
I know. Some of it's good for me.
Anyway, we hope you're doing well psychologically and physically. That's the psychological burden for many. In fact, on my way to the studio today, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he lives in Berkeley, California, and he said, I live across the street from a coffee shop. He said, there isn't a point in time where there isn't 20 people lined up in front of this coffee shop. He said, from morning till night, every minute they're open. He said, it's like people, like that's their social interaction. It's like a trip to the coffee shop is the community in which he lives. It's, anyway.
And unfortunately, a lot of businesses, I mean, the challenge for this economy, and we saw this last week, the stock market was all over the board.
Yeah, but so
up
look at
500, down 600. I mean,
look at the month of April for
huge.
the market.
It defies logic.
There is a absolute disconnect between the economy and the equity markets. Absolute disconnect.
I mean, one would expect some decline in stock prices when the economy takes a hit.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that things are worthless. Doesn't mean that the companies aren't going to be profitable again. So obviously, there's still a lot of value in these companies.
Yes.
Most companies.
But the hit, what this is causing, the hit to the small businesses in the United States, and actually globally, it's going to be hard for many of them to recover. So
yeah, but we got a great program. We are going to take some calls.
Well, we think we haven't done the program yet.
That's true. We've got a great program scheduled.
We're hoping to have a great program. So if you'll please stay listening till the end, you can judge for yourself whether it was a good program.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about some super Airbnb hosts.
Oh yes. Yes. My children. You know, one of the nice things about this is I have 4 children. 3 of them are back from college. Well, they're in college. It's interesting because you kind of get a glimpse of what their college life is like. One of them goes into his room for 7 to 8 hours a day, and he's on Zoom meetings. He belongs to a couple clubs. They're all
This is
doing
Tom.
This is Tom, and then my son Keegan, who gets good grades, but he doesn't put in the 7 to 8 hours.
Yeah. I'm guessing when you were in college, you were probably more like Keegan than you were like Tom.
Oh, 100%.
And you learned, well, I mean, I think part of your path, Pat, was you learn to surround yourself. You really learn what you need to learn, and then you surround yourself with a lot of bright people to help you
Yes,
accomplish what.
Well,
Yeah.
it's just most people, I think, do.
Yeah. All right, let's take
Do
some
you want
calls
to take
here.
some calls? Let's take calls.
833-99-WORTH is the contact number.
833-99-WORTH. And we've got upcoming, we have a, we come into the studio about once every 6 weeks and just take phone calls. Without doing the show, we take these phone calls where we actually record them and we take them. And so if you receive our email, which I hope you do, you can sign up for it at allworth.com, allworthfinancial.com. We've got one coming up in a couple of weeks.
I was going to say, what is the date? I don't have a note with the date on it.
In a couple of weeks.
Isn't it on the calendar?
It probably is, but I don't remember the date. But my point being is, if you'd like to call the show now or wait till if you sign up for our email, allworthfinancial.com.
Yeah. So let's start off. We're talking with Luke. Luke, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, how are you doing?
We're doing great. Thank you.
I've been better, Luke.
So, oh yeah, I can imagine. It's been a rather rough year for all of us, I think.
I think you're right.
Yes. How can we help you?
So, to put it into simple terms, I'm pretty young. I'm around. I've been out of college for a couple years now. I have no debt whatsoever, and I have around about 45,000 in liquid cash, and I'm not sure what to do with it. I know the stock market is going up and down. I've already put about 11 into that, 11,000.
Into what?
And I'm just into stock market.
Yeah. What would you buy?
About
Specifically,
4,000 went into a money. It was more of a mutual fund,
okay.
which has not performed very well. I bought that over the course of a long time,
Okay.
but recently I put about 4.5 into individual stocks, anything from Disney to a chance on Southwest, etc.
Okay. How old are you?
About 26.
And what do you do for a living?
I work at a tree service company in Northern California.
And you graduated from college?
Yeah, I went to UC Davis, got a managerial economics degree,
Oh.
and got 2 emphases with that.
Just on a side note, are you guys doing much contract work with PG&E and the clearing of the electrical lines?
Actually, yes. We are a subcontractor for a company called ArborWorks,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is a rather large
Yes.
tree service company within just California. but
I trimmed trees as a young man. I was a climber and had my own little business for a couple of years, one of those little small businesses.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
There is
My previous life.
Luke, before we go any further, I'm impressed already by you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you've saved all this money. You've got a college degree. You're out working in a trade, which, by the way, is unbelievably profitable business. This tree trimming.
Well, with the utility clearings and all that,
Yeah,
right?
it is. It's big business.
It gets really profitable once you get into some residential and stuff like that. Utility gets a little bit more tough.
Yeah, well,
They're
the margins
clamping
are
down
it's more competitive. But
Yeah.
so
I think Luke probably understands with his master's from Davis and working in the tree trimming business, probably understands the economics better than you do at the tree
yeah,
trimmers.
fair. So, what's your question for us? You've got this 45 grand. You've invested some in the market.
Right. And so currently I have very few expenses. I happen to live with my aunt. So I pay for rent in terms of work around the house, and every once in a while I'll buy some home improvement items and stuff like that and help her out. So as it stands right now, I have very few expenses. I have 10% of my income going into a Roth. just to catch up because I was rather slow on getting on that.
You are 26, by the way.
I was kind of slow.
I know I'm a weird person, but here we are.
Well, it's better this weird than the kind of weird that you called and said you have 45 grand in credit card debt.
Which wouldn't be unusual.
Oh no, I feel so bad when I know people that just racked up the debt right out of marriage or right out of high school, and it's so sad.
Well, you can only live your journey, right? Not theirs.
So here's the.
Well, let's ask him. Do you want to buy a house at some point in time, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. The answer is yes. I hope to buy a house within 3 years.
Okay.
Probably more towards the 3 to 5, but 3 would be nice.
And what part of savings really comes down to is what do you want these dollars to do? So if you said I save money because I don't like spending it on anything, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, and I might die with millions and leave to charity because I can't figure out how to spend money. There are people like that. That would yield to one sort of advice. Yeah. If you call and say, like you're saying now, I'd like to buy a home in about 3 years. That's a completely different type of investment thing. And then, so the question is, are there some other financial goals that you have?
Financial goals. I do. One, I always want to make more money. Just from a. Yeah. I'm probably going to end up marrying this girl who's still in college right now, but once she gets out, I don't trust that her industry will make a particularly large sum of money. So I'll probably be the primary breadwinner. And if that's going to be the case, I want to make sure to manage my money in such a way that she can be the discretionary spender, and I will be.
By the way, if it doesn't work out with her, I've got a 24-year-old.
I know.
She's beautiful.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, we both have a college graduate daughter. So.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. What a nice son-in-law. Isn't that strange that we're at that point in our life where we're actually shopping for our daughter's husband?
We wish we could shop for him. I think they have some say in the matter. Well, how much do you have in your Roth?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I would have to double check.
Okay. And what about you? Do you have a 401k available through your employer?
Support? No.
How many employees do you have at the company?
A little less than 50.
Just ballpark it.
Or around a little less than 50 to 40,
so
depending.
You should have a 401k at your company. And by the way, if you don't, the state of California will mandate it coming up here in the next year.
Next year. And is it next year? There's there's some changes in the 401k rules where it'll be a lot easier for employers to offer them beginning in 2021. But anyway, so we're still in 2020.
So here's what you want to do.
I didn't know that.
You have if you have a company savings plan like 401k, you want to put the maximum in. You want to fund the Roth IRA to the maximum. If I were you, I would buy all equities
in the Roth.
In the Roth, I wouldn't worry about the market gyrations or anything because you don't care what happens day to day. You just want to know what it's going to be when you're 60 or 65 years of age. Which, by the way, you have a lot of runway in front of you. And the cash, I would actually put in a high yield savings account. And I would go, what's the name of that website?
Bankrate.com.
Bankrate.com.
And here's why. If you, for long-term financial security, first of all, the way you're going to make money, Luke, and increase your net worth is not by picking stocks or, frankly, even invest in the stock market. It's going to be through your career. Right, so the more value you can add at the marketplace, that's going to have a direct correlation to your wealth, and then it sounds like you've already been on that track, and you will continue on that track, and then really, home ownership is a bedrock for solid financial planning. It just really is, because you find people get later in life. Those right now that are 60 years old, their home's paid off.
They don't worry about the same thing that someone that's renting an apartment or
correct.
A house.
That's correct. Right. So we love the concept of home ownership, even though it's got its own issues. I just think from a financial standpoint, we've seen thousands of people. And so.
Okay. So, Luke, if you were Scott's son-in-law.
But I would clearly say there's no sense taking risk with your cash savings if we're going to be using it to buy a house in the next
And it
few
might
years.
not be 3 years. It actually may be a year or 2 years, because you may see home prices actually come down here in the next 6 to 9 months. Wouldn't
We don't
surprise me
know.
at all. Would it surprise you if homes drop
No, it
10
would
to
not.
15% or 20%?
No, I expect there to be a surplus of homes in the market.
Right. So
And-
then so if you have if you've got some cash set aside, so here's what the challenge would be. Let's say you say stock prices are down, the market's down again today. I'm going to go buy these stocks. The next thing you know, most of your cash is invested, whether it's in an S&P 500 fund or individual securities, and then it's 2 years down the road. The governor's still telling you can't do this and that. The economy's still in the doldrums, and you're thinking, oh man, there's this great house that's just come on the market. I can get it for a phenomenal price. And you go to get your 45 grand, and your 45 grand's worth 35 grand.
So because you invest
Your
for the-
particular time.
your time horizon's not long
Yeah.
enough.
So if you go to bankrate.com, you'll see some of the highest yielding savings accounts, FDIC insured. That's where you want to put the bulk of the money.
Currently, the bulk of the money, around 40-ish of it, is in 40 of it is already in high yield savings in Ally.
Yeah,
Oh, perfect.
That's so you're doing the right thing.
I use the same bank.
You're doing the right thing.
You're 100%. You wasted your time calling our show.
I don't like to think it's a waste of time.
He's joking.
It's different perspectives.
He's joking.
I'm joking.
Luke, appreciate the call.
Oh, listen, and keep up the great
All right,
work.
thank you.
You should be. Your parents should be proud.
You know,
of
it's
you.
funny. It's this generation gets a lot of flack, but it's a bunch of slackers.
They're
and all that.
not.
Maybe they're the ones that work with us aren't.
That's right.
We got a lot of great
A lot
ones.
of 20. We have a
A lot of people in their 20s.
yeah, a lot of people in their 20s.
I could think of a couple that aren't. I'm kidding.
Do you want to actually say their name on the radio
me-
show?
Let's get the.
Give me a list of all the people between the ages of 20 and 30, and I'm going to go through it right here on the air.
All right, if you
How
want to
many
be part
people
of
do you
all,
think that work at the company that are between 20
I don't
and
know.
30?
Well, if you would like to be part of, by the way, we've got a lot of very experienced certified financial planners here, so it's not like
We have a lot of people in their 40s to 60s.
yeah, as well. And frankly, we build some teams oftentimes where you've got
A mentor and a
younger
mentee.
advisors, educated and CFP and all those things, but they're also with matched up with a highly seasoned advisor, just like you would in law and accounting and other professional services. To join Allworth's Money Matters, this is Allworth's Money Matters. Our contact number is 833-99-WORTH, and we're talking with Michael. Michael, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We're pretty well. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing fine. I guess I'm a result of the coronavirus victim. Anyway, I've been employed with this company 30 plus years. I've been really blessed with it. So they were terminating that position, but they're a good company to work for, and I'm going to be working part-time for them, about 16 hours a week. And
By your choice or their choice?
both.
Okay.
Because they're going to pay me the same amount per hour.
Okay.
Anyway, so it'll be a little income. I turned 65 in September, so I wasn't really planning on retiring early, but so I need some sort of supplemental income along with Social Security.
Okay. And how much
Anyway.
how much will you be earning? And are you 65 or 65 in some months? And the
I'm
reason I asked,
65 no, I won't be 65 until September.
okay, so you're not applying for Social Security yet.
Yeah, I already did.
Okay, so we should talk about the earning limitations on
Yeah,
your
have you looked into that? It's
benefits.
like
I talked to them already. So, according to them, I'll start getting the benefits in July.
Understand, but the issue there is,
it's about $18,000 a year, I think, isn't it?
yeah. So how much are you going to earn at your job working 16 hours a week?
Probably about about $30 an hour.
Okay, so $30 an hour.
At 16 hours.
I'm looking
So,
at
yeah. So it's too high. You shouldn't be
Right,
taking
no,
Social.
I understand, but I don't.
No, you're
But
gonna.
there's nothing else.
You're going to lose some Social Security benefits because you're over the wage limit of what they withhold until you're full retirement age. So you probably should not have applied for Social Security.
Yeah, you can't if you earn more than $18,240.
Which at 16 hours a week at $30 an hour, which is $480 a week, so we'll call it 5, you're going to earn approximately $26,000 a year, which is $8,000 over the limit, which means that for every dollar you get in Social Security benefit over that $18,200, you're going to lose 50% of the Social Security benefit.
Do you have some savings that you can use to supplement and you defer your Social Security to your normal retirement age?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you need to. So I know you didn't call for this question. You need to suspend those Social Security benefits until your full retirement
He
age.
says he didn't have any savings to.
Do you have any money in a 401k or Roth IRA or?
Well, I have some in that.
How much do you have in that?
I could be eligible with the Corona thing for $100,000. I've got $150,000.
No, but you're over
right now.
age. You're over age 59 and a half, which means that money's completely liquid. So the Corona thing doesn't really apply to you. How much money do you have in
150 grand.
150 grand. So I know you didn't call for this, but you need to suspend that Social Security.
Otherwise, you're gonna have to pay some of it back the following year.
Until your full retirement age, and your full retirement age is probably
66 something.
66.
It's in November next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so you need to suspend that Social Security.
Well, actually, he could begin. There's this what's called the special monthly rule, and
but that would be next year.
January of next year. If you suspend until January of next year, because you can earn more.
No, it still applies, Scott, because it's the special monthly rule. He'll still $700 over the limit on a monthly basis.
Yeah, no, but the year in which you reach your full retirement age, you can take more that year.
But they do it by month, so they break it down to 12 months. So you're best suspending your Social Security benefit until your full retirement age and living off the dollars in the IRA or
Pat,
401k.
the year in which he can earn next year, he can earn almost $50,000. It's that year. It's the old limits that they applied.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you don't want to start your Social Security till
January. You really can't. You don't want to start until January.
So just call them and suspend that.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so you had a question for us before we went on this track,
Well, I mean, it kind of covers it. You know.
Okay.
I know what to do. I know what to do with my IRA.
Okay. So
Thank you.
And so in that IRA. This thing, you should have it allocated approximately 50 to 60% in stocks, and the rest
conservative,
and the rest in bonds. How much money do you plan on drawing once you receive Social Security? Do you plan on drawing off the IRA on a annual or monthly basis?
I was planning to pay off some debt.
How much?
About $80,000.
You don't want to do it all in one calendar year.
Yeah.
You need to talk with
You need a financial advisor.
Yeah.
Not one that's going to sell you an annuity or actually even
some good planning.
You just need some good planning.
Because if you're not careful on your taxes, the tax situation is very progressive and it's graduated. So if you took out 80 grand all at once, or they'll say, well, withhold 20% federals. If you took out 100 grand, that's going to be like you had another $100,000 of income added on to your other income for 2020.
And you'll have to take over 100 to actually pay off $80,000 in debt. What kind of debt is it?
It's mostly credit card.
Okay, and do you own a home?
Yes.
And is it paid for, or do you owe a mortgage on it?
No, we still owe like $100,000 on that.
And how old is your spouse?
She's 65.
Have you considered a reverse mortgage?
Yeah, I was going to go exactly there.
No, I haven't.
All right, so there's lots of things that need to be addressed, Michael, before you yank any dollars out of that 401k.
Yes.
There's a lot of planning issues that, and unfortunately, your things are pretty tight for you financially. I get that at this stage, but you still need the some good planning in here. You've got some other options that you need to consider. So, strongly.
If I were sitting in an office with you, an advisor with you and your spouse, we would go through the debt. We'd decide how to do it. We'd look at the equity.
You
in
look
the
at
home.
all the options you have.
We'd look at when you start Social Security. What is your spouse still work?
Pat, I watched. Michael, does your spouse still work?
No, she's drawing a pension from a state pension.
And does she have money in a 401k or 457?
She's got some sort of annuity.
Okay, you need so,
the right kind of planning, things might actually be pretty good.
Yeah, they might be all right.
But you don't want to just yank 80 grand out to pull off that debt. It'll clobber your income. I've seen it. I've been doing this long enough. I've seen it. I've seen people come back later with they're just shell shocked what their tax bill is going to be. They can't believe it. Yeah. And sometimes they don't even have enough money left in their retirement accounts to cover their tax bill, and it puts them in a.
And so a reverse mortgage but that all works in the.
It may or may not be. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things. Sometimes you want to. You're a little young for that, in my opinion, but something to look at. So, also on Social Security, if you're under age 66, you're allowed. It's about $18,000 a year. The year in which you reach your full retirement age, you can earn about $48,000 a year. Once you reach your normal retirement age, you can earn as much as you want.
And that's called the special monthly rule.
No, that's a different thing. That's the year in which your normal retirement age. Anyway,
I'm going to go with you.
We're taking a quick break. We'll be back more. This is Scott Hanson, Pat McClain, Allworth's Money Matters.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hanson.
Pat McClain.
Glad you're taking some time to join us on our program.
And I hope
it's helpful for you.
I hope you're staying safe, psychologically, physically.
I don't think much has been dealt with the psychological.
It's
very much. We have one thing we're focused on.
Yeah, this is gonna the backside of this will stay with us for years and years and years.
It's a little challenging to. What I might say privately to someone, a family member, might be different than what I'll state on the air. And
radio.
And it's not because I don't want to be honest or totally transparent with people. It's just I respect other people's opinions on things. And so on some areas, I just kind of keep my opinion to myself. And I want to make sure I'm a great financial advisor to people and they trust me and take my advice. And so opinions that really are irrelevant to that sort of a relationship,
yes,
I kind of keep to myself.
Yeah. But my
concern, though, my greatest concern with all this, to be real transparent, is what this will do to the global poor.
Oh, it's awful.
And how many lives will be lost due to starvation?
Because
the whole supply chain's getting disrupted.
Yeah, and it won't. It's not going to be a switch.
I think more will end up passing away through young people will pass away through starvation
globally.
It's
not in the U.S. I mean, the same thing that's happening in the U.S. is happening worldwide.
I've been to a lot of very poor countries, and sometimes you see these women there with their fruit cart selling their fruit cart and everyone. I was in India, and the guy was telling me these women don't even own their cart.
Yeah,
they have to rent it. It's
them.
almost slave labor. Yeah. They rent them, and every day the guy comes to collect his piece
12 cents or 15 cents.
And so when you can't have your fruit cart out there selling,
yeah,
where's that lead you?
Well,
and I've been to several countries in Africa, and I've been in lots of different places and poor countries. It'll be interesting. Very, very, very concerning for me. Anyway, I have no control over that. What we can control
is answer your questions
on finances, and we can do the best job we can on financial planning. One thing we do know, this will pass. There'll be many companies that will do some industries that'll do extremely well during this. Many companies that will simply survive during this season. Some industries that will probably never recover or will take so long to recover. And there will be new companies, new products,
that come about.
Things that we can't even think about right now.
So one of the things that, I don't think people like us pay enough attention to, financial guys, is the cost of borrowing, the cost of capital on the companies that are actually being hit hardest. Restaurant chains, cruise lines, entertainment, anything that requires you to actually go out into the world and consume it, that typically involve experiences, They're right. You're not consuming them at home. You actually have to leave your house. The cost of capital on these businesses is going to go up.
No question.
Right? Why? Well, the
business is much more risky.
The businesses are much more risky.
I mean, there was the flack that Ruth's Chris took that money for, and the Shake Shack took. You can't go to Ruth's Chris. Would you, if Mrs. Ruth called you and said, "Would you loan me some money?"
You would say,
Not sure when you're not open.
But
I don't know how many people.
If I will, when
And there's going to be the social distancing. When's it going to be before you're profitable again?
Yes.
Yeah, that's just one example. So it's interesting times. We will get through this. And if you've got the right kind of financial planning and the right kind of balanced portfolio, you will do fine through this.
If you're taking income on your portfolio, you should always have 3, 5, 6, 7 years in non-risky assets.
Yeah, that you can draw upon, so you're not forced to sell any stocks right now.
Yeah.
That's the right kind of planning you need. And if you don't have that and you're taking income, I wouldn't wait. Ignoring your portfolio until things to recover is not a great strategy. Yeah. If you have a good financial advisor, you don't have to worry about it. But if you're doing it yourself, you better do it yourself.
Yes. It is a strategy. It's just not a good one.
That's true.
Buying lottery tickets is a strategy for retirement planning as well. It's just not a good one.
That whole world of lottery tickets, I don't know anything about. And when my father was in the hospital this last November, December, across the street was a donut shop. I don't eat a lot of donuts, but when my dad's in the hospital, I was eating a lot of donuts.
Okay.
My sisters and I would go to get donuts.
See you at a donut shop.
I was loving them.
Okay, so where are you going with
My
this?
point is, this donut shop sold more lottery tickets. This was in Harbor City, which is right by the Los Angeles Harbor, kind of a rougher neighborhood with the Kaiser. And I watched people come in and out, and they would buy 5, 10, 25, 50 lottery tickets at a time and sit there at the tables scratching them.
Really?
And they weren't there for the donuts. They were there for the lottery tickets. There's a whole, I don't know anything about it. And if you're listening, like, of course, Scott, don't you? They're horrible investments.
It's a voluntary tax.
Yeah. But there's it was an interesting subculture that.
The lottery tickets. Did you ever buy one?
In my life?
No, at the donut shop.
No. For what?
I don't know.
I'll spend $1 on a donut. I'm not going to spend $1 on a lottery ticket. At least I can get the sugar rush and a headache about half an hour later with the donut.
And end up the same place.
Yeah, that's right. regretting my purchase. All right, 833-99-WORTH. We're going to talk with Mark. Mark, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you, Mark.
I think what I have is a simple question, but I can't find it on Google. I'm trying to figure out how long I have to do a direct rollover on a 401k from a job termination.
When you say direct, what do you mean by direct?
Moving it to another 401k or an IRA.
So here's where it gets, and here's why you say you're having trouble finding it. It's the terminology, right? So
Okay.
you intertwine two different techniques in there. Inadvertently, right? So,
Yeah, you use the word direct
which is fine,
and rollover.
which is why you're calling. You're trying to get some clarity on this stuff. So,
Right, because Google's confusing me.
Yeah, and it's because it's kind of like if I were to start doing some self-diagnosis of a medical issue, and I don't understand the terminology all the time, and it's not always that helpful. But a direct transfer,
not a direct rollover. You use the word direct rollover.
A direct transfer is when you've got your 401k. And you instruct either typically the 401k plan, sometimes it's the receiving place. You instruct to say, hey, take my cash, my retirement savings, and move it over to this other place. Move it to this IRA, move it to my new employer. It's called a transfer. You can do that shortly after termination from your employer. You can do that 6 months later. You can do that 5 years later.
You can do
your
it
spouse
never.
can do it at your death.
You can do it never.
So they won't do anything with that unless we tell them to.
That's correct.
Unless it's less than $5,000 or $2,500.
And then they'll notify you if it's a small amount, and if you don't do anything, they'll just send you a check.
I mean, it's up to the employer, but I don't know of any employer plans that kick people out. Sometimes at age 70, because the required minimum, or now it's 72, but at the required minimum distribution level.
How old are you, Mark?
56. Because
Okay,
what was
so
confusing me was I kept reading in there the 60-day rule.
Well, the
Okay,
60
let's-
days,
let's
but
finish this.
then let's talk about your age and whether you should or shouldn't.
So a rollover, and this really comes back from 20 plus years ago. And the reason nobody does, it's really rare to do a rollover. And a rollover is where they send you the check made payable to Mark, checks made payable to Mark. You put it in you either endorse the check over to somewhere else or you deposit the money into your own account and then you write a check. I remember in when I first started in the industry, I remember in the early 90s, I remember that exact thing. People would get their retirement check from their employer. They weren't doing transfers then. They were sending it directly to Mark. Mark would then take it, deposit it, have to wait a few days for the check to clear, write a new check, and put it into their IRA.
But then they started withholding the taxes on that 20%.
And which didn't make it possible. But back then you had 60 days to decide where the money went. Okay? Now today, technically, you still have you can still tell your retirement plan, send the check to me, payable to me. They're now required to hold taxes, so it's going to be really problematic if you did this. But you could receive the dollars. You would have 60 days then to go put the money into a new 401k plan or into an IRA.
But almost nobody does that. So how much money
You don't want to do that. You direct transfer 99% of the time.
How much money is in the 401k?
Just over 400.
Okay, and when did you separate from service?
2 months ago.
Okay, so here's
Was this a planned thing, or are you a?
It's a plan. It's a target date fund.
No. Was your termination planned at 56 from this company, or did you lose your job?
No. This is working at another company now.
Oh,
okay.
good.
So here's the rules. So if you're listening to this, you're not going to hear this from a lot of advisors. You just don't hear it very often. If you're over the age of 55 when you separate from service, that 401k has no penalties on it if you take a withdrawal. So normally, if you took a withdrawal, there'd be 10% federal penalty, and every state has either does or doesn't have an additional penalty. In the state of California, it's 2.5%. But if you're over age 55 when you separate from service, there's no penalty on taking the money out. So you could go in there today and say, send me $50,000. They're going to withhold the 20%. But at the end of the year, you file your tax returns and you're going to pay tax on that as ordinary income. You take that money and you take it out of the 401k and you move it to an IRA, it no longer applies. Then it's a 10% penalty until you're 59 and a half. So it may make sense for you to actually keep the money in the 401k if you think you're going to need it between now and age 59 and a half, or a portion of.
What if we rolled that over into the current employer's 401k?
The rules then don't. There are penalties taking the money out of the 401k.
Okay. Same as putting it in an IRA.
That's right.
Okay.
So, but now that's in a normal world. Right now, in this world, you could take $100,000 out and you could pay taxes over the next 3 years. So,
leave some money in that old employer's plan.
So if you were sitting down in one of our offices with a financial advisor, in our office, we'd have this discussion about whether you thought
or
you
a
were
Zoom call like we're doing now.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good. If we would have,
if you're having a virtual meeting,
we would have this discussion about how much liquid cash you had outside of your 401k. Do you think you're going to need this money? And if you do think you're going to need this money, we might leave $100,000 or $150,000 in the 401k and roll the difference into an IRA and invest it.
Okay. No, I definitely want to transfer it all.
You don't think you're going to you have a lot of liquid cash outside of IRAs then?
For now, yes, and an emergency fund.
Okay.
Good. Perfect.
So then it makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my concern was being in the market. I was taking my time trying to figure out what to do with it.
Well, it's in the market now, is it not?
Yes, it still is, yes.
Yes.
But in the target date fund, so I was just trying to...
Well, so the problem with the target date fund, especially in this environment, is that it doesn't actually pay any attention to what the market's doing. It only pays attention to your age. So it's becoming increasingly more conservative the older you get, which, by the way, may make sense, but right now you couldn't get me to sell equities into this market.
Yeah.
Right?
So it might be better off. It might be better transferring it to a new employer if you know how to build the proper allocation for yourself, and do it outside of a target date fund. Furthermore, when let's say when you eventually go to retire, it's preferable to have money in a variety of different accounts, so funds within the same account, so you can draw upon, say, a money market or a bond without touching the equities.
Or you use that time to rebalance the portfolio, which is if equities are up, you want to actually sell equities into a high market, and you want to sell bonds into what we believe to be a low market, but you're rebalancing the portfolio on a continual basis. So at our firm, we run our portfolios through a screen once a week to make sure that they're in balance or close to balance.
Okay.
Right? So in a target date fund, you don't have that opportunity. It just looks at your age and recast the portfolio based on your age. So $400,000 in a target date fund.
That's a lot of money in a target date fund. You wouldn't if it was 40,000 or 4,000 target date's perfect.
Yeah.
400, you can build a better portfolio without using a target date fund. So anyway, Mark, hope this was helpful for you and wish you well, and pretty interesting time, and he gets a new job right before all the lockdown. I think we've hired new employees in the midst of this, and it's kind of
We've never met them.
No, no, of course. I don't think I've done a Zoom call with them either.
No, I have not met them. I saw an email that we hired like 3.
Must be a challenge to onboard during this time. I mean, you think about when you start a new job somewhere, the first day showing up.
Yeah,
it's always
like,
weird, meeting people. You're trying to figure out your way around here.
And then
how do you do that?
And
how
these
do you
guys
do your bedroom?
They're showing up in their bathroom and slippers.
All right, let's continue on here to join Allworth's 833-99-WORTH. We're talking with Ray. Ray, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
I turned 61 this past October. I've been retired since 2010, retired out of a building trades union. I have about $350,000 in a 401. They call it a 401A, and I've almost decided to take Social Security this year for age 62. Pretty much decided. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Ray, are you single or married?
Married.
And what's your pension?
My pension, the deal I made with the union was I'd get $67,000 a year, and when I pass away, my wife will get that intact.
The same amount, full amount.
Same amount.
And does your wife work outside of the home?
She had, but she's not going to go back to work right now. She's out on disability. She gets about $580 every 2 weeks from her employer's disability insurance company.
Got it.
And we're almost on the verge of settling that. So it's I doubt if she goes back to work. She's 57 right now.
And is there any cost of living adjustment on your pension, or is it $67,000 when you retired?
It's fixed until I finally retired. I do have a little part-time job because there was only so many times you could paint the house, you know.
Your house kept getting larger and larger.
And the room smaller and smaller.
Inside and out. Do you have any other assets other than this $350,000 in the IRAs?
Oh, she has a 401k, $100,000 there, and we own our own house.
Is there a mortgage on it?
That's about it. No mortgage.
Boy, you've done well. You retired.
I
retired.
wouldn't call myself wealthy by no means. At least not living in San Jose.
I'd take Social Security early.
Why, Scott?
Here's why. I was trying to whenever I'm talking to someone whether it's someone I'm talking to on the radio or someone in my office, I try to think them. Let's assume that this person's my family. So you're my brother. Your wife's got some sort of disability. You're 61. I've had enough people that I've known that have had these great retirement plans. We need to make sure that you're set if you live till 90, but you might not.
But he looks
Right.
he looked pretty good.
You've got a great pension coming in. You've got no mortgage. My thought is take the Social Security now.
And spend it?
If at age 85, you still are alive at age 85 and thought, well, from a Social Security standpoint, you could have waited and maximized your benefit that way. Take a reverse mortgage
Yeah.
to give you more income at age 85 if that's the case.
So
You've got a pension
Yeah,
that's going
I-
to continue to your wife if you die young.
I have no need to take money out of the 401A that I have,
That's right.
or hers as well.
That's right,
We
that's
just
right.
plan on passing it off to the kids.
Well, that's right.
Because I live pretty well, comfortable with just what I have now. And I expect to get another pension from the International Union when I turn 65. It's about in line with Social Security. So I think I'm doing okay.
I think you're doing great.
I'm
So
glad to hear that.
I didn't quite agree with Scott at 62 though, because I probably would have split the difference. But I understand your argument. I understand Scott's argument, which is, look, you're fine. Why not spend it? Why not enjoy
Yeah.
it? You've got this
I
given.
mean, every year, every year
and-
you wait, or every month you wait, the check's larger, but it's another month that you don't have the check. So you need to
Right.
live to a certain age before it is even
a
a break
break
even.
even.
If you wait till age 70 to take Social Security and you die at your 69 years old, then
It was nothing.
you didn't get anything from Social Security.
Yeah, I guess the caveat is I am diabetic and I'm starting to feel the
Okay,
effects of that.
even more so. Even more so.
If you don't,
Take
if you
it at
think there's
62.
a chance that you don't have a normal life expectancy,
Take it early.
or that you're going to have some physical disabilities that's going to prevent you from doing things that would require money, like travel, like visiting the kids and the grandkids,
Yeah.
even more so.
Yeah, I'm putting a nail in it. I'm going to take it.
Yeah, take it
Take
at 62.
and go enjoy it.
Yeah. And don't bring that dog anywhere in public.
Well, it's just a little one.
I know. Exactly. Exactly the reason it shouldn't be out in public.
All right, Pat, I want to talk a little bit about Airbnb. And there was
We were supposed to go to Wyoming and rented an Airbnb house. And I said to my wife, we need to cancel this. We may not be going in June to Wyoming. We were going to go to Yellowstone. And she's like, well, what happens if we decide to go? I'm like, well, listen, the Airbnbs will be plentiful in June and the prices will drop significantly.
yes. I talked to someone this week who they're taking their family to Costa Rica. I think July. They're still planning on it. They had bought their tickets before
Okay.
for like $900 each way, a round trip. And she called and got the price repriced to like $300.
She just called and said,
Yes, because that's a new
so-
policy.
wow.
So, by the way, if you've got something planned, you might want to talk to your airline.
Or
If you own airline stocks, my apologies for.
or if you've got if you rented a hotel or anything, you might want to just call the hotel and say, "Hey, can you reprice this?"
I mean,
thing
here's
for
what's
me?"
sometimes you hear people talk about the greedy business people or greedy people or whatever. But this is how. So this is your own personal economics we're talking about. Nobody seems to have a problem with
Yeah. Well-
maximizing your personal economics.
Well, I mean, Scott, what's good for the individual may not necessarily be good for the whole, and vice versa.
Yeah. So
Airbnb,
there are people that are like these super hosts with Airbnb.
which they own 6, 8, 10 properties, and they operate just like mini hotels, if you will, with diverse properties all over a geography or multiple geographies.
there are some families that this is the business that they decided to go into. Not only were owning properties, renting apartments.
A WeWork, if you will,
Yes, right? So they would go and rent a bunch of apartments.
for $4,000 a month, and then charge $300 a day if you stayed in that apartment. So you think you do the math, 30 days, $4,000 a month. If I rent it for $300 a night or $400 a night, I'm going to essentially double.
Now, I had no idea that this sort of industry existed. You want to talk about, I don't know how you get more risky. I mean,
To rent long-term and then to rent from someone else long-term and then rent out short-term. So what happened to these people?
oh, some of them are, and I mean, they're in, it's, I mean, think about this. Think about it. If you went out and bought a couple homes with mortgages with the whole plan of using Airbnb, what happens to you right now?
Your neighbors hate you.
Well, beforehand, now you've got no rents coming in. You've got the mortgage payments due.
And there's no one there. And you're paying property tax, insurance, but there's no tenants.
And who knows how long it's you're the same as the hotels.
It's a hotel model. It's a hotel model in a small scale. So
but it just got me thinking again about
risk,
debt, personal lines, personal guarantees, and debt. Those are the two things that can take you out. And if you're already been taken out through this, you've learned your lesson. For the rest of you, and maybe you've been in an industry that's been spared from this, still have some consideration on take a good look. Debt, and if you're having any personal guarantees for something.
And a personal guarantee says
you're going to pay something for a period of time, right? You're guaranteeing something. So that's about all the time we have. By the way, we are doing a recording of our calls on Friday, May 15th from 10 to 12:30. So,
and how would you sign up for that?
I don't know.
You would go to our website.
No, just call 833-99-WORTH.
But if you go to our website, allworthfinancial.com, you can receive our weekly newsletter, and it will be posted there as well.
Yeah, and also we just Pat and I did this last week. Our Money Matters Brief. It's a Zoom video thing that we do. That we talked about some things about the current recovery and the recession. And the impact of the latest CARES Act, and you can find that at allworthfinancial.com. And we also we've done a bunch of new resources. We've got one that's unexpected employment change. So if you've been laid off, furloughed, or forced to retire, we've got a number of resources, guides, videos, and stuff to help you navigate through it, because it's not an easy time for many of us, and we're trying to help as much as we can. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week. This has been Allworth's Money Matters. Hey, podcast listeners, I want to ask a brief favor. If you think this program is helpful and you like it, please do a couple things. One, go and give us a review on it. That's helpful. And second, share this podcast with others.
Yeah. And the point of the review is when people are searching for podcasts, the more reviews you get, the better reviews, the more people listen. And we'd like people to, obviously, for selfish reasons, we'd like more people to listen.
But also, no, it's really, I mean, if you think there's someone in your life that could benefit from this, just forward this podcast to them, and so they can give it a try. All right? We appreciate that.
Thanks for listening.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.